Welcome to another episode of Pitch Us. My name is Tim Cooley, the author of the Pitch Deck book. I'm joined by Jeff Erickson and Ted Mcclure. Jeff, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, Jeff Erickson. I'm with a company called Forecaster that makes financial modeling easy for founders. We're a startup ourselves. I'm also an angel investor. I did 13 deals last year. I've done a few this year already. And I love working with startups. I sit on the advisory board of a number of different startups and excited to be part of Pitch Us.
Great.
Ted?
Yeah, hey, my name's Ted Mcclure. I have been angel investing since 2007 when I founded the Park City Angel Investment Network, which at times in the past 15 years has been in the top 5 of national angel networks. And looking forward to learning about your pitch.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. Stacy, we're really excited to learn what you're up to. Go ahead and share your screen and you can pitch us whenever you're ready.
Okay, I will share my screen. Well, I'm also, can you guys see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Is it full screen or can I see me too? Okay, there we go. I'm playing with Canva, so I don't know if you guys have used that other than PowerPoint. It's really a fun thing to use. Well, I'm Stacy. I'm super excited to be here. Tim invited me to be able to pitch to you today. I feel a little bit like I'm on Shark Tank, so I feel like I should say, good evening, sharks. I'm excited to show you Doc to Doc Health. I have spent the last 20 years in healthcare, specifically in the cardiovascular space, and have learned a lot about problems and issues in the healthcare business related to processes, and have come up with Doc to Doc. So what is an interhospital transfer? It's the act of moving a patient from one hospital to another. If you've ever experienced this as a patient or as a family member, this is a really scary time for patients. It's time critical. It's very complicated. It gets very chaotic. But the most troubling thing is it's a very inefficient time for clinicians in healthcare. Our current transfer center process has up to 30 steps and phone calls just to transfer a patient from one location to another. As you can probably imagine, this is the telephone game on steroids. So the fact that we can actually move a patient safely from one location to the other is quite remarkable. The data that came out about how we're doing with interhospital transfers says that 50%, half of the patients that we transfer from hospital to hospital are inappropriate. That means that when they arrive at the new location, they either don't get any treatment or they're discharged the very same day. So they could have been treated in the hospital that they originated at. The other thing we found is that 70%, that's a lot, 70% of the patients that are transferred get a new or different or additional diagnosis upon arrival, suggesting maybe we're not doing a good job diagnosing them in our rural communities. The other issue is that they have a 5-day longer length of stay. So as a patient, you think that that's really inconvenient, but as a healthcare provider, every single day longer length is a negative debt increased for that hospital system. So a lot of money being dumped into resources that don't need to happen. And then on top of that, there's a 30% adverse event, meaning that just because you're transferred, there's a 1 in 3 chance that something bad will happen. I was the cardiovascular service line director here in Utah for a hospital system. And I was approached by our CEO who said, I want you to increase cardiology business. Well, cardiology business is primarily a referral-based business, either from emergency rooms or family practice or outside of our network. And I looked at how we were getting our patients and realized that we did not have a transfer center, nor did we have a very easy process for sending in patients. So to increase our patient referral, I created Simple Version 1, which is basically they would call into a hospital number that would forward them to one of my nurses, who would then facilitate the transfer, three-waying in a doctor for that consultation. The things I discovered during this time was those consultations were all being provided pro bono. We were giving that away for free in the hopes that we would build our patient population, and basically just for relationships, which everything is built upon. But what I also noticed was that we increased our patient transfers month over month for the next 2 years. And we had three times more consults than we actually did transfers that were coming in. So all of those free consults that were going was 3 times what we were actually building as patients. It was when I was sitting on the state registry for stroke and cardiology, and I was listening to some physicians go back and forth about the best practice for transferring patients, especially for stroke and cardiology. And it got pretty heated, and the physicians were going back and forth. And I finally heard one ER physician say to the crowd, "I just want a button on my phone and have the doctor I need on the other end of the line." And it was in that moment, with all of my experience and all of the things I've been working on with the transfer line, that I realized I could fix this problem. And so I created Doc to Doc. It's a really simple process where the ER physician creates a patient account by scanning the patient profile face sheet, and it brings in all of the patient information. Then they simply pick the modality that they want. That modality then pulls up all the hospitalists or the hospitals and physicians that are available for that modality. We can quickly add in an EKG, or we are connected to their radiology system, so we can pull in any images that might have been taken at that rural community. And then it goes right into a call to that specific physician, that specialist that we wanted, without having us to go through a transfer center and those 30 phone calls to try to get him on the other end of the line. It does an audio and video capabilities, and that's really important because now we can bill for those free consultations that were previously being provided. There's also a key component here, and many of times you're admitted to a hospital, the accepting physician is actually the specialist, but the admitting physician is a hospitalist, and they get left out of this process quite often, but not with Doc to Doc, we've added them in. Once the transfer is selected, then all the clinicians that are involved in the hospital transfer are then brought into the hospital or to the patient profile, receiving notifications about that patient, and laws that require us to put certain information in is then added by those clinicians that are accepting, the nurse and admitting and so forth. The final piece is the estimated time of arrival. So now when they leave in that ambulance or that helicopter, the time is put in and everyone will receive a specific time on when that patient will arrive and where they're going. So everyone's brought in on the communication. You might wonder why hospitals would want to change from their expensive transfer centers that they've put a lot of money into to a system like Doc to Doc Health. Well, we provide a substantial amount of savings in the money that they're putting into those transfer centers, while we're increasing appropriate patient transfers and treating and maintaining those patients that don't need to be transferred in their rural communities. We do provide a revenue stream that many hospitals this would be a new revenue stream through emergent teleconsultation. And most important to me is we're going to have better outcomes and increased quality on those patients. So we have a $21 billion market, and it's pretty easy how I calculated that. We have 6,093 hospitals in the United States. And based on our fee, which is $250 per transfer or $20 per consult, you can see that with the 3 million transfers that are happening currently in the United States, and with those consultations, that brings us to a $21 billion market, as long as all those hospitals are on our platform. We've come a long way. So far, we've raised $1.2 million in friends and family. We do have a patent that's pending, and we do have a current product that's ready to be betaed and piloted. It's been accepted to the Apple Code, and we've just finished the IBM Accelerator program. One really exciting thing that we're working on right now is a partnership with a nonprofit organization, and I'm going to tell you why that's so important next. We're currently creating our influencers, those are our physicians and our users, through our beta testing. And our plan to get into the hospitals is through hospital organization implementation, meaning we'll start with piloting 2 hospitals within that organization, expanding in phases to each of their hospital network hospitals, and then naturally expanding out to their relational hospitals. So hospitals that these rural communities such as Wyoming and Nevada that send into to Utah's hospitals would expand out then. We will be creating a demand through our regulatory body governance, and that's where our nonprofit comes in. We'll be working on informing CMS of this certain problem, and that there's no regulatory body currently over that. So our nonprofit will be working on that and creating demand. We have a small group of individuals that are part of our employees, which is myself, Earl, and Dr. Cutler. And we bring a lot of experience in hospital administration, sales, and marketing, and then of course our medical expertise in our physician. We've also contracted out with some great companies to help build our product. We're currently raising $750,000, and that is so that we can continue our product operation and development, our marketing and sales, and then there is a cost associated to us to implement into our hospitals as we build. We're going to be taking on that expense and just providing for services. And then of course, staffing to continue to build our team up. And that is all I have to share with you. I'm excited and hope you want to participate.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ted or Jeff, do you guys have any questions to follow up?
Yeah, what's the pre-money valuation on the $750,000 raise, and do you have any term sheets?
I have a simple term sheet. I'm trying to not share my screen anymore with you. Just 1 second.
I'll get it for you.
Okay, thanks.
Stop sharing or something.
Yeah, it's wanting like, it's going to be funny. Okay,
I see.
It's at the bottom.
I put you guys in a different place so that I could present. Can you take it away from me, Tim? Because it's not giving me the menu bar for the Zoom. Oh.
There you go.
Sorry.
Right.
Our cap sheet is pretty simple. It's a friends and family. So we split that between my brother and I, and we're ready to dilute as we add in our additional investments and who has ownership in the company. And we currently are looking at giving some shares to our physician because he's not a paid physician. And then the second question you had was the valuation. And because we're pre-revenue, there really isn't, the valuation becomes subjective, kind of. And because I need $750,000, I'm willing to negotiate that number. But so I really can't give you a true valuation.
Okay. And do you know when you're raising the 750,000, are you doing that in the form of a convertible note then?
Yes.
Or safe? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned the friends and family round that you had raised. You had raised 1.2 million. Did I understand it right that it's really kind of you and your brother that have kind of put all that in?
It is. It is my brother and I that have done all of the investments so far.
Okay. And what has that gone to? Is that what's built out the app? Is that the
Yeah, it's a complete software system. So there's a web portal that speaks with the app so that it all can communicate. But yes, it's gone to the development of that. I have been pretty much our only paid employee other than everyone we've contracted out to build that service.
Okay, great. And is it just you and your brother on the cap table then? You're the only owners?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Nice job. All right. So let's get into the feedback. Jeff, why don't you start, and what did you like about the presentation?
Okay, I thought you're very good at presenting. So you're comfortable, it's easy to listen to you, and you do a great job just in that regard. I also liked some of your slides. Your slides looked really professional. I thought that for the most part, there were a couple that I'll have some feedback on, but I thought the overall presentation, the slide deck was nice looking and all of that. The other thing I liked, and I think what caught my attention is that one, you had raised, when you said you'd raised 1.2 million already, that seemed to provide a little bit of legitimacy. It's like, okay, this is serious. I thought where you showed the app on the phone and some of the functionality there, that was very well done. And it showed, it's like, okay, we've got a workable product that, can actually do something here. And then the other thing, the fact that you'd gone through the IBM Accelerator program, I thought was another real positive, something that kind of helped give you some more credibility in that regard. So those were some of the high points. I thought those were all really positive and good. Tim, do you want to
Go ahead.
Ted to go on more of the positive?
Yep.
Yeah, I'd echo some of those positives. I thought you were very comfortable articulating the problem, and I think there's a couple of gaps. When we look for presentations, we look for generally 12 things to be answered. And 3 things that are not answered very well right now. There's nothing on the competition. And so, I've got to believe that there's a way to explain the competition. There's no financials that shows what you're going to do with this money and where you're going to get to in the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
And the 3 team members are, impressive, but I really think you need to build out an advisory board and add additional people that have a stake in the game. And happy to help you think about that.
Thank you.
Perfect. Jeff, why don't you say some of the things? So just a little insight. Stacy and I have been working on this for a little while now. It is way better than when we started. And I love where it's at today. Like Ted mentioned, there are some areas we can improve. But I will mention, a lot of people want to use video, and I like that you used more of like an animated GIF. That's one way of getting around that functionality. It's a lot lighter for presentations, and it usually doesn't fail, which is usually a problem with video. So great job on that. Your cadence through that part was really well done. And it's definitely a skill that's practiced. So if you're thinking about using, and this is for our audience, if you're thinking about using animated GIFs like that, make sure you're really comfortable and understand the cadence of the video itself, or the animated GIF. Otherwise it can really mess you up. But you did a great job with that. And so with that, let's move to areas of improvement. Ted mentioned a couple. Jeff, why don't you add to that?
Yeah. So again, the only shark you have on here is Ted. So him and I are dolphins. And,
So I can stop sweating when you're talking.
No, you notice Ted jumped right into things that it's like, okay, this is what we need to work on. Totally agree. I think Ted hit on the right things. We've got to address the competition. What else is out there is in there. The financials, we need a financial projection. What does this look like? And how do you get there? Mm-hmm. And so I think those are things that definitely have to be in here before we go into talking about the financing, cutting checks. Ted brought up the team slide as well. So even with the 3 on there, I didn't catch what you all did. Like, what are each of your roles and why do you have these other team members? I don't know that I even got the impressiveness out of that slide. I saw 2 logos. One was a law firm and I forget the other one, but I didn't know who was what. So, and at this early stage of your company, investors are betting on you as a founder in your founding team that you've got in place. I mean, that's going to be a huge piece of this. And so building up the credibility of each individual founder, and the founding team is really critical. And so I'd spend a little bit more time on that, kind of like what Ted said, and a good advisory board could enhance that as well.
Thanks, Jeff. I have a quick question on that.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that I write, I add something like in their title that indicates who they are, or is it better that I speak to speak to what those individuals do and how they bring value to the table?
I would say both. If you've got, if one of them's a neuroscience or person or something that is relevant, then put that on there. Okay. They're, former board of directors on this company or whatever it is, that gives them credibility. Okay. And then, list the logos of the places they've been at. If they've been at the top research university or they've been wherever, just to give us a little more confidence in who the team members are and who's, who we're putting our trust in here.
Okay.
And then I'd also speak to it, build them up. It's like, this is our team. They're amazing. And I probably wouldn't go into the, we're a small group with big aspirations. No, this is the group. We're confident. This is the group that's going to get us there. And this is why. So I'd go in with confidence there.
Awesome.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeff. No, sorry. I thought you were done.
I just had a couple more things, more specific, I guess, on a couple of the slides. You had it was the 2020 reported data slide. You went from these beautiful slides with images and pictures and everything, and all of a sudden there was just this black and white slide with a bunch of text, and the text was really big and it kind of blended together. I would put some icons in there or something to break that up, so
Okay.
that we know what those individual points are.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're just kind of staring at this black and white on the screen. And it was, just not, and it was a big contrast because everything else is put together so nicely, if that makes sense.
No, that's
There was one other slide that kind of had something similar where I thought you had 3 points that you made, but all of the text on the side, it all kind of blended together.
okay.
And so again, distinguishing those and maybe using little icons that you can speak to, or at least kind of separating those out a little bit more so that you've got these 3 distinct points that you're making.
Mhm.
So those are just a couple points. The last thing I'll mention was actually maybe 2 more. All right. The problem where you started out with that big problem, it was super complex. I got a little lost there because it was like, here's the problem of transporting people from hospital to hospital. And then you kind of skipped into, okay, and then I've created doc to doc. And then we went into the problem. And the problem is the doctor wants a button to push to say, I want to connect with another button. So there's a little disconnect of, okay, wait, what was the problem? It was transferring patients, or was it communicating with doctors? How do those come together?
Okay.
Maybe be a little more concise on what the actual problem is, and then dive into the solution. And maybe Ted might have caught that differently than me, but
No, I agree. It's macro versus micro, and as we talk about relative to market, there's a TAM, SAM, SOM, and a beachhead, right? And so you've created a total addressable market of $21 billion, right? But the specific problem that you're solving is communications between doctors during a 2-hour time period in which the transfer occurs, right? Or whatever it happens to be, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, something maybe a little more concise, kind of like that. Here's the problem. Here's why why this solution is so needed and where it fits in. So that was a little there. And then the last thing I'll say was at the end, you notice Ted's first question was, what's the valuation?
And the cap
It's
table,
all
yeah.
about on that last slide, leave us with, we're looking for $750,000, and it's in the form of a note, and here's the valuation cap on the note, or the safe, or whatever it is, just so we know what it is, and then we can use that for context going forward. And I would have a valuation cap on there because you're going to get asked about that.
Okay.
I think Tim can probably give you some guidance on some of that as well.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Ted, any other feedback?
no, I think you've covered a lot of stuff. I'm happy to give you the 1-page executive summary to the Tim Cooley 80-page book. And if you just skim through that 1-page executive summary, you'll see how to fix a couple of those slides, and happy to meet with you again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Great job. Yeah, a couple things. Also check typos. Jeff mentioned a lot of things that I think that are you need to work on. You in that 2 billion, you had 4 zeros in a row. Just a little thing there. But yeah, Jeff really hit everything on the head that I would mention. I think that idea slide actually just should be removed. It's kind of an irrelevant slide, and I think it did distract from where you were trying to go.
Okay.
It kind of moved you backwards in the storyline. But other than that, like I said, I thought the presentations come a long way from when we started. I actually had no idea what you were doing. It's much clearer now. So thanks for working with me on that. So
Yeah.
with that said, it's time for the ultimate question. Based off of what we heard today, just in the pitch itself, Jeff, would you like to learn more about this? Would you take this company into due diligence?
Okay, so this is not in the space that I typically would do. It's probably more in line with what Ted looks at. But with that said, the two things that I mentioned that really caught my attention that would probably get you into, hey, let's talk a little bit more, was one, you went through the IBM Accelerator program. I'd probably dig into that a little bit more, say, okay, that's, I'd love to hear more about that. And the fact that you've put in 1.2 million into this, I think, yeah, I want to hear a little bit more and see what the $750,000 one gets you, where that gets you to, and what your revenue streams look like. And so I'm going to put a caveat on there. I need to see the financial projections kind of to say, is this something where in the next, does that $750,000, where does that get you in terms of revenue growth and all of this? And is this a trajectory that I can get behind and say, okay, I can see we've got a pathway to make this. And so I'd dig into that a little bit more, and I'd put you into a little bit more due diligence here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Ted, what about you?
Yeah, it needs some work. It's 30 to 60 days away from bringing it to the Park City Angel Investment Network.
Okay.
And if you brought this presentation as it is, it would not be moved on to due diligence. But that being said, I have been working in digital health for the last 4.5 years. I'm a big fan of improving the healthcare system, and I'd be happy to take a meeting with you and help you with a few things.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Perfect. Yeah, and I would agree. I think that it's missing some key elements to move it along. I think you've got a nice start right here, but understanding the valuation, right? What you're asking for, what you want to do with it. It's like, we don't want to pull that out of you. You got to tell us.
Right.
But I think you're right there. I mean, it's like Jeff wants to say yes, but he's like, I just don't know enough.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of where you're at. And those are easy fixes. I mean, you already know the information. We just got to get it out.
Listen, these guys are being a little too nice. You're a cardiologist. It's very difficult to be a cardiologist. So kudos for sticking with your craft. But this is a B-, okay? And you know what? Doctors, need an A- to an A, right? So
Thank you.
Right?
I accept your challenge.
I love
Let's do
it. No, the thing is, I think that you've got some good feedback here to take it and get it to the point where you can go through. The other thing I'll say is, you do a great job presenting. So you have a natural way to present and all of that. Just do that a whole bunch of times and try and get that message down really concise. And you'll get there just with some of the help on some of the slides and whatnot, some information that's missing.
You're likable. It's a pain that you've dealt with. All the things are there to say that you can do this. It just needs a little bit of work.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you, Stacy.
You're welcome.
If anyone's looking to pitch us, please go to our website, pitchus.io, and apply.